So now we have to go into Aurobindo. This is the second part that I've compiled, and it's from the mother. And you're all free to ask questions. I'm not a lecturer. I'm not a teacher. I'm simply one of you on the way. All of us are on the way. Because for us, there is no other way. We have seen the world, most of us. We have experienced life in so many areas: family, environment, education, work. And it's not enough for us. It's not enough. We have come because we feel that here there is something more. And tonight we will learn from Mother about this something more. The first question to Mother: how dependent is the building of Aurobindo upon man's acceptance of spirituality? Mother, the opposition between spirituality and material life, the division between the two, has no sense for me, as in truth, life and spirit are one, and it is in and by the physical work that the highest spirit must be manifested. In 1968, when I brought my wife to meet Mother for the first time, it was one of the most powerful meetings, not from me, but for my wife. Because she was sitting in the middle and I was on Mother's right, and the gentleman was on her left, who was a part of the East-West Cultural Center in Los Angeles. And Mother gave him a radiant smile, and he was gone in 2 weeks. This was not for him. Then she turned to my wife and she said, quote, "This is not the first time we have met. You have been with me many times before, many, many times. And I believe that all of you here tonight have been with them many times before. We don't know it, and we cannot know it until the psychic has blossomed and opened out. But I feel it, because I feel that those who have been called, let's say those who have chosen this path, the path has already been chosen for them." Sri Aurobindo says this. He says, for those of us who have chosen, already the divine chose us. Physical work. And it is in and by physical work that the highest spirit must be manifested. So then Mother turned to me after she spoke to Ani, and she said, "You don't want to come to Aurobindo in a few years? I feel you can do something there." And I just simply said, "Mother, whatever is your will." It wasn't to be a few years. It was only to be 9 months. And she called me. She sent a letter through Udar, one of her secretaries, And he said, Mother would like you to come and prepare to build the gardens of the Matrimandir. Now that I can look back, I can see that Mother had prepared me from a child. The love of flowers was inherent in my soul. But even more so, I began landscaping with my father when I was just in my teens. And I learned all of the temperate climate species, many of them, not all. And then Mother sent me to California, where I learned all the subtropical species. So she had prepared me step by step to go into the tropics and learn those species to build the gardens of the Matrimandir. Well, I worked for 12 years in Aurobindo at the very beginning, suffered along with so many during the difficult times. But now I've been asked to be the chairman to decide with a group of 5 other architects on the next 4 gardens of the Matrimandir. Would you like to hear what Mother told me about the gardens?
Mm-hmm.
It must be a thing of great beauty, of such a beauty that when men enter, they will say, "Ah, this is it." And they will experience physically and concretely the significance of each garden. In the garden of youth, they will know youth. In the garden of, she used French, félicité, they will know félicité, bliss. And then she raised her hand and she said, one must know how to move from consciousness to consciousness. Divine Mother, is there any reason why in Aurobindo we should have to compromise with the truth out of a feeling of expediency or material gain? Mother answers, the very fact of living and acting is a compromise, because the world is not yet living under the law of truth. This was in 1968. And when she gave me the message in 1968, I wrote back and I said, what does Mother want me to do? Does she want me to go to college, go back to college, or do physical work? And so he writes back, both. So I had to work during the day and go to college at night. And then it was only 9 months, and she sends me a note, a bientôt. So we dropped everything. And he came first, and then I sold every little thing we had, packed things up and sent them here. And Mother put us up at Promesse, which was one of the first earliest colonies, just now on the road that goes towards Hope, where they put a toll booth. Oriel pleaded, don't put it here because everyone will have to pay. They didn't listen. No big creation is possible without discipline. Individual discipline, group discipline, discipline towards the divine. 16 September 1968. And then Mother speaks about the organization of work. The important thing is the execution which is to be carried out without ever losing sight of the ideal we want to realize. December 1968. The next question: does the construction of Aurobindo require a working method, organization, and coordination? Mother writes, discipline is necessary for life. To live, the body itself is subject in all its functions to a rigorous discipline. Any relaxation of this discipline causes illness. Very interesting. You know, I'll keep diverging if you'll bear with me, because there are so many things to share with you that have happened recently. Lakshman Sehgal, does anyone know of him or know him? Nobody, okay. Came to the ashram when he was 4 years old. And Mother watched him and taught him physical education, not just asanas. He was a runner, he was a gymnast, one of the best. He learned all kinds of exercises that we would see today, all kinds of things on the TV. But the children here in Aurobindo don't have a planned program of exercise. And they're our future. We can do what we can with the bodies that we have. But these children are the sign of the future. They have the possibility even of transformation. We may have to take another body and another body. That's okay, no problem. Question: does the construction of Aurobindo require a working method, organization, and coordination? Again, I say, discipline is necessary for life. To live, the body itself is subject in all its functions to a rigorous discipline. Any relaxation of this discipline causes illness. Now, each week, I have an interview session with a homeopath. His name is Dr. Pachagavkar. Have any of you seen on the YouTube site? Okay, we have two YouTube sites. One is Mother and Sri Aurobindo, one word. And the other is my legal name, Richard Eggenberger. All of his talks on every aspect of the human body. We've only done 56 of them so far. We have 57 still to do. And I ask all of you, if you know anyone who wants to work with us on designing beautiful backgrounds for the questions and answer series that we do for the different talks. There are so many things that you will get from these two sites. Just to give you an example. On Tuesday, I used to have Kittu ready. Been a teacher in the school since a child, and had very close correspondence with Mother. He did the entire human cycle with me, and a good bit of the ideal of human unity. Very, very clear man, very understandable. On Wednesday and Thursday nights, I have Ranganathan, who does the Life Divine and makes it understandable to people. On Saturday, I have Shradhalu, and it's a program called Evenings with Shradhalu. On Sunday and Monday, I have Explorations in Savitri with Dr. Alok Pandey. So my schedule is pretty full. And in addition to that, I interview people all the time. And I want to extend that invitation to all of you. You can share with me how you heard of Sri Aurobindo and Mother, how you heard of Aurobindo, the ashram, what your life's work was, what your aspirations are, the future that you see for yourself. Just contact me and we'll be happy to do it. The interviews are very informal. No stress, no strain at all. We go at your pace and do whatever you want to say, accept whatever you want to say. Sometimes we do have to edit a little bit when people get a little aggressive, perhaps, about one nationality or another, or one religion or another. But my email is very easy. Narada, Narada, 12@gmail.com. And I would love to interview any of you who are interested. So back to Mother. Question. What should be the nature of this organization in the present and in the future? Mother's answer. Organization is a discipline of action, but for Aurobindo, we aspire to go beyond arbitrary and artificial organization. And this is what Aurobindo is struggling with now. How, first of all, to achieve collective harmony. Do any of you know the flower hydrangea? Hydrangea?
Collective harmony?
Yes, it's collective harmony. Behind there's one young lady I know who gave us the answer. Thank you. Collective harmony is absolutely essential for Aurobindo to progress. Now, we've been through last few weeks where Mother says, when they ask Mother, what do we have to do? What are we responsible for? Mother would always say, nothing at all. What are you responsible for? Mother would say, everything. And then she would say, if you have not gone further, because many questions were asked to Mother, and some of these questions occurred with a group who would meet her on Sunday. This is in '68 now. For example, they wanted a zoo in Aurobindo. Mother said, no zoos. We don't want to look to the past. We want to look to the future. Very important statement. They asked her about animals, and I'm sure some of you may have animals, but she wasn't in favor of animals in Aurobindo also. The heat, the diseases, the problems with overpopulation of animals multiplying. But we all have to grow, and we have to learn what she has so clearly spelled out for us. She writes, we want an organization which is the expression of a higher consciousness working to manifest the truth of the future. An organization which is the expression of a higher consciousness. We're not there yet, because the ego is too strong. I think last week I spoke to you a bit about the ego, and Sri Aurobindo's aphorism is very apt. Ego was the helper, ego is the bar. Because without the ego, we wouldn't be who we are. And yet, ego is the bar because it prevents us to be who we truly are, which is the divine. The divine in each of us has to come out. That's our real work. The physical work is very important because it teaches the body to concentrate on the japa of the name. If we can concentrate when we begin the work and when we finish the work, that's good. If we could do it, Sri Aurobindo says, in the middle and once in a while at other times, that would be even better. Eventually, we have to reach the point where we are concentrating on the divine at every moment. That can only be through the opening of the psychic being. Question. Until this group consciousness appears, and until we can work collectively in the true and right way, what should we do? Mother's so clear. A hierarchical organization grouped around the most enlightened center and submitting to a collective discipline. There always has to be a hierarchical organization until we all realize that we are the divine. And then Mother has an interesting phrase. She says, divine anarchy would be the best thing for Aurobindo. Question. Must we use organizational methods which have proved effective, but which are based on human logic and the use of machines? Mother says, this is a makeshift which we should submit to only very provisionally. You know, we are in an extraordinary time in the evolution of the human species. Never before have we been able to be so close together. We have the internet, we have email, we have cell phones. All of those, yes, can be used for darker purposes, but they can also bring us together. And they can also let the world know what is going on in every country. It's a very important thing. We should not denigrate these advances, but AI is not the answer. Artificial intelligence is not the way it's going to go. The human soul has its place and its work to do in the world. Question. Must one allow individual initiative to manifest freely and inspiration and intuition to be the moving force behind personal action? And should one reject all ideas not felt as good by the interested party? Mother. In order to be workable, this requires all workers of Aurobindo to be yogis, conscious of the divine truth. I give you an example of the purchase of land for Aurobindo. My friend Mandakini has raised already millions of dollars to purchase land. But in those early days, in the very early 1970s, there were two distinct groups in Aurobindo. One group saying, let the villagers ask whatever they want. and we'll pay them. It's their land. They've been here for hundreds of years. I was in the other group saying we must buy the land now. So I met with Mother's son, Monsieur André, and I said, would you ask Mother how we should go about it? He came out to Aurobindo, to the center we called Peace at that time, which is now incorporated into the Matrimandir area. And he said this, Mother says, buy the land now. You do not know the power of greed. And now we see it. We see it so graphically. We could have bought land for 2,000 or 3,000 rupees an acre in those days. And it would have been very beneficial to the people who sold it. Now, a worthless piece of land is going for 1 crore. The government is not going to get into this. They could, but I think there are too many other issues the government has to face now than the issue of purchasing land for Aurobindo at any price. So, question, if to wait is the solution, is it nevertheless necessary to define organizational principles and to avoid uncontrollable disorder? Mother, all those who wish to live and work at Aurobindo must have an integral goodwill, a constant aspiration to know the truth and to submit to it, enough plasticity to confront the exigencies of work, and an endless will to progress, so as to move forward towards the ultimate truth. And then she adds a final note. And finally, a word of advice. Be more concerned with your own faults than with those of others. If each one worked seriously at his own self-perfection, the perfection of the whole would follow automatically. 6th February 1969. You know, the first wave that came to Aurobindo, we were pretty high. And we were a ragtag bunch. I had long hair, long beard, and most of the others did too. And what did Mother say to us? Do not think you're anything special. Each of you represents a problem of the world to be worked out. Well, if that doesn't make you humble, nothing would. 1969, 22nd February. We're close to that now, 22nd February. Aurobindo, the city the earth needs. Message for the first anniversary of Aurobindo. Let light, peace, and joy be with all those who live in Aurobindo and work for its realization. Blessings, 28th February, 1969. You know, I've never had one negative thought about the future of Aurobindo. It's the Divine's work. And it will be done exactly according to the Divine will. What can humans do? We could accelerate the process, or we could hold it back a little. That's all. And that's only in human time, not in the Lord's time. We should try to have collective harmony to accelerate the process. Because now, with the supermental being in the earth, working in the earth, Sri Aurobindo had to give his body to put it in the earth. And Mother had to work 23 years more to begin the cellular transformation. What did she say about this cellular transformation? She said that any person in the world who is open, those cells will enter that being. Powerful statement. Science is now getting to that point. Science is beginning to understand that everything is related, united. And even with all the theories, they still do not accept the divine. Thank you. So Mother says, freedom is possible only in union with the divine. To unite with the divine, one must have conquered in oneself the very possibility of desire. The freedom we want to realize in Aurobindo is not license. Each one doing what he pleases without concern for the well-being of the organization of the whole. So then the question was asked, is it the divine will that Aurobindo should be born? Aurobindo as an experiment? Mother, the conception of Aurobindo is purely divine and has preceded its execution by many years. Mother used to speak of this dream. Many of you have read her dream. There should be a place upon earth. You've read this. Well, it wasn't really meant for Aurobindo. It wasn't written for Aurobindo. It was long before that. But it is totally applicable to Aurobindo, as well as the ashram. The ashram will always be there. My friend Gerard, who ran the Oro Orchard for many, many years, told me that once when he went to Mother, he said, Mother, would you tell me the difference in Aurobindo and the ashram? And Mother said, the ashram will always be here for those who want to practice the integral yoga. And then she said, and Aurobindo, it is so wide. Because it's the experiment for the entire world. Only when, not if, but only when Aurobindo succeeds, then other cities and nations can begin to replicate what Aurobindo has achieved. Question: how can people having different values live and work together in harmony? Mother, the solution is to go deep within oneself and find the place where all the differences combine to constitute the essential and eternal unity. There is no other way. We have to go deep within ourselves, finding that place where all the differences combine to constitute the essential and eternal unity. She says 2 Aurobilians, she writes, to establish in Auroville the harmonious atmosphere which by definition ought to reign there, the first step is for each one to look within himself for the cause of friction and misunderstanding. For these causes are always on both sides, and before demanding anything from others, each one should first strive to eliminate them from himself. This was a lesson that I learned many, many years ago. When the Divine spoke to me in 4 words, love all, no exceptions. Mother once wrote to me, I still have that letter. I told her that she had turned my world upside down when I met her, because her presence was so powerful, and she initiated me, and I can't even speak about that today, all these years later. I said, Mother, what should I do? Should I go back? Because I had a scholarship for the Metropolitan Opera. Should I go back and study music, that is voice, or should I concentrate on choral conducting? Mother wrote exactly this, one or the other, because the important thing is not so much what you choose, but the spirit in which you will do it. And then she puts at the bottom something that took me a long time to understand. Keep living in you the spirit of consecration, and all will be all right.
Can you explain consecration a bit?
Hmm?
Can you explain consecration a bit?
Oh. To consecrate oneself to an ideal, to the Lord, to a vision, means to give all of thyself, thy entire being. When I last met Sri Aurobindo in his home in the subtle physical, there were no words. He was seated in his chair, motioned me to come forward. I did, and I knelt before him. And he allowed me to massage his feet. I asked my Upaguru, Aurobindo Basu, what did this mean? And he said, it means that you have surrendered to him, but now you have to make the surrender more complete. And that's my life's work. Once, when Dilip Kumar Roy, whom Sri Aurobindo called him a son and brother, was going to leave the ashram because he could not accept the mother. Mother called him. And he said, I don't want to see her. So they sent Nolini. Some of you know of Nolini, I'm sure. The oldest disciple, I believe the greatest. And he went to Dilip and he said, that would be disrespectful. And Dilip said, all right, I'll go. So he goes before the mother. And mother asks him, why are we here? And he starts, to surrender to the divine for the transformation of the being. And it goes on a few more things. And very quietly, mother says to him, to please Sri Aurobindo. That's why we're here. I'll end with Savitri. There are different editions, so a little carefully, but the book of the Divine Mother, and I can continue where we were working the other day with Dr. Alapande. Book 4, the Book of Birth and Quest. Canto 3, the Call to the Quest. Now, do not try to understand Savitri, because it is written far above the planes of mind, comes down from the highest overhead planes, and it is mantra. Allow the vibrations to enter your being, and on successive readings, things will be made clear that were not possible for your mind. So this is the beginning of Savitri's journey to find her answering soul, Satyavan. Aswapati, her father, sends her out to do this because no one in the kingdom could match up to her perfection. Some would get angry, some wanted to have her for themselves, but many came and went. So now she begins, and I'll continue this each week. She begins her journey to find her answering soul, who is Satyavan, who is the soul of the world. A morn that seemed a new creation's front, bringing a greater sunlight, happier skies, came, burdened with a beauty moved and strange, out of the changeless origin of things. An ancient longing struck again new roots. The air drank deep of unfulfilled desire. The high trees trembled with the wandering wind, like souls that quiver at the approach of joy. And in a bosom of green secrecy, forever of its one love note untired, a lyric coil cried among the leaves. Away from the terrestrial murmur turned, where transient calls and answers mixed their flood. King Ashwapati listened through the ray to other sounds than meet the sense-formed ear. On a subtle interspace which rings our life, unlocked were the inner spirit's transclosed doors. The inaudible strain in nature could be caught across this cyclic tramp of eager lives, across the deep urgency of present cares. Earth's wordless hymn to the ineffable arose from the ardent heart of the cosmic void. He heard the voice repressed of unborn powers, murmuring behind the luminous bars of time. Again, the mighty yearning raised its flame that asks a perfect life on earth for men, and prays for certainty in the uncertain mind, and shadowless bliss for suffering human hearts. And truth embodied in an ignorant world, and Godhead divinizing mortal forms. Namaste. Any questions? Time's passed, but if there's any questions out there.
I have one. It was really the beginning of your reading. You said the physical work.
On physical
You
work,
mentioned,
yes.
mentioned physical work. Now I'm a newcomer, about to be newcomer, and I don't think I'm currently I'm not involved in any physical work, like using my body. I'm using my mind most of the time, as I used to do back in Italy or in the other European country I worked. I'm wondering if having an activity involving the body is what the mother was really suggesting, or
Yes, she is suggesting that, definitely.
uh-huh.
And I'll tell you what also she said. She said that when Aurobindo is on the way to realization, that each one would give according to what he or she could give. So if you were an artist, you would give paintings, or you would do paintings. If you were a manual laborer, you love to work with your hands, maybe a carpenter or a plumber or electrician or whatever it may be. And then you would receive whatever you needed for your physical life. So simple, isn't it? So simple. Give from your inner being whatever you can give and receive whatever you need. Well, there are attempts being made. Portus is one, but we have a long way to go, and we'll go there.
Hmm.
Thank you all.